So if you have a membership in your club and you put an announcement out, they're going to see that whether they log into that, whether they click on the student club or not. So it's going to feed out onto that page. I make that distinction because that's the only tool that doesn't actually have any interaction or do anything. So an announcement is considered a tool by Blackboard. So I want to add announcements. I'm going to add a tool link. You can name it anything you want. Let's see what this is Slytherin. So there's no rules about what you can or can't name anything. You can type anything you want in there, as long as you drop down the menu and select the tool that you want this to be. And I don't think I wanted to cover email and discussions, but if I don't get there, just please take note that adding a tool link is where you're going to go if you want to use announcements, if you want to use a discussion board, if you want to add email or messages or a blog or anything like that, you're going to add a tool link. You'll see this option in everything you make, whether or not something is available to users. If you don't make it available to users, then your participants can't see it. Everyone that has a leader role can see it. By default, when I add a new menu item, it comes to the bottom, but I have a drag and drop feature. If I come over here to the far left, I get that crosshair and I can put it anywhere I want. And I have an announcements page on my course, in my club. So this one's pretty straightforward. I have one option, create announcement. When you're working in Blackboard, everything with an orange asterisk is required. When you're working in announcements, if you're writing a discussion post, if you're doing anything in this text editor in Blackboard, this is always going to be the same tool. And so I just wanted to point out a couple of features of this that a lot of people aren't aware of. The first is you don't have to work in this tiny limited space. You see this down here? So if you're working with large pieces of content, images, or anything like that, you can always size the window to what you need. Hopefully, these tools look familiar. It's general formatting options. It's just standard, your paragraph and indents and all that sort of thing. The one thing that you might not be familiar with, you can embed media. So if I have an audio file or a video file, I can put it in here. I can put my images in from here. You got a math club, you have a formula generator here. The mashups. Does anybody know what a mashup is? A mashup is when you take data from two different sources and basically you put it in a single location. So like Expedia or Travelocity, those kinds of things are pulling information from different parts of the web. So that's a mashup. So your mashups are going to do exactly what it says. And I wish I had time to show you how this works. But basically, if I click on YouTube video, I can search YouTube right inside this box, pick my thumbnail, and display the video as of the announcement. And the same with all of these if you have SlideShare or Dropbox accounts. Does anybody have any questions so far?
I have a question.
Go.
Okay, so you said for the announcements to be available to all the club members on their Blackboard thing, right? Is there some sort of manual entry of each individual club member that you have to add
I understand.
Transmit that information, do you understand?
Right. So right now, again, if I've gotten that information from Jennifer, then leaders are already in your clubs as leaders. You should have access immediately. If you are a participant prior to this semester while we're doing this, then you are in there as a participant. If you haven't been in any of these sites or any of these clubs before, you have to use that enroll option. So I can add people on request by Jennifer. So if you want to add your membership, you guys, if you want to meet as a club, you want to get a list of your membership, you want to share that with Jennifer, she filters it to me, I can add them in as participants, or easier, you can direct them to the club page and they just self-enroll. When they self-enroll, that's when they'll start getting those announcement messages. So they do have to enroll in the course or be added as a leader or participant in order for that announcement to feed out. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So, so back with announcement, we're just creating a basic announcement. We give it a title, we put in our text. If we want to throw in some multimedia, we have that option. And we're just going to submit. So I talked about the landing page being that module page. So if I'm interested in one of the clubs and I come in here and this doesn't really say much to me about the club. So one of the other things I want to show you, because it's usually the first thing most people want to do, is how to customize the look of your club. You notice what you don't normally see when you're in a Blackboard course is you have this control panel now, and this is really what all of your professors have as well. This is one of those areas where there are literally hundreds of options of what you can do down here. We're just going to look at one. We're going to customize, we're going to customization, and we're going to go to teaching style. That's the only things you have to remember. You're just going to customize the teaching style. This is where I can say what the first page of the class is, I can add images, I can change colors, I can move my buttons around. This is how I'm going to make my club page stand out from the other club pages. So for your first option is your entry point. I want my entry point to be the announcements. That's the first thing that I want people to see for my club. So I'm going to choose that as my entry point. Your entry point can be any menu button that you have created. I'm not really happy with the black buttons, and so I'm going to open up my button library and pick something that suits me a little better. You can really, there are a lot of options in here. There's like alligator skins and fur and all kinds of stuff for the buttons. You can change the shape and the size, not the size, you can change the shape. So if you get in there, this is one of those areas, get in there, mess around, see what you can do. There's nothing you can do that can't be undone. So don't worry about just going at it. This is your space. If I want to add a banner image, so I want a picture at the top of my club page, I can put that in here as well. Bear with me. So already this looks completely different than 2 minutes ago. So do we have any questions about how you can add a picture, change the colors, change where people land?
Can we pick one color, or is it just one color?
There are themes you want to get in there. There's that button library. You can just look at what you can do. You can change it to background prints, stripes, all that kind of stuff. So I wish I had more time to show you all these features. But yeah, there's more than just, I think there's some stripes and different color patterns. You can't custom color, like you couldn't create a gradient or anything, it's not that fancy, but all the options you do have are on that page. So it's customization, teaching style. So we know how to get to our clubs. We know how to get people into our clubs. And we know how to show the first page that we want people to see in the club. So like I said, you get this prefabbed menu. It's just kind of like maybe these buttons will be useful to you. Please take ownership. Your drop-down menus will always show you what you can or can't do with any given element inside of this. So for the buttons, I can name it anything I want. I can delete it entirely. I can move it around. I can hide and show at will. A couple of visual indicators. I have this gray perforated box. Means there's nothing there. If I see that gray perforated box, I know that when I click on it, there's going to be nothing. So I don't really need this. I'm going to want to order things, like I said, in the way that I want people to reach them. So when you get in there, I guess if you have a group of leaders, you'll want to talk about how you want the experience to be. But however you want people to come in here and access your materials, you have absolute control over that. Yeah.
Say once you delete it, how do you get it back?
So that's the next thing I wanted to show you. So we looked at how to add a tool. We go to that plus button, we go to tool link, and then we have that whole list of tools that we can add. The other one that I want to show you is the content area. So what did I delete? I deleted the information button that had nothing on it. So I just recreated it. I didn't lose anything because there wasn't anything there.
You can customize that to make the button say anything, it look like?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we put that back. So a content area is where I can add text, images, multimedia, anything that I want to present information on when and where events are going to be, information on what you should bring, information on meeting minutes or next meeting's agenda. It can be, we can type into the text editor, we can attach a Word document or a PDF, there's no limit to the file attachments that you can put up here. So whatever information it is that you want to share with your club members, it's going to go on a content area. And you're going to do one of two things, depending on how much content you have. If you go to build content, a content folder works exactly like a folder does in a Windows file system. It's just another layer to help you organize a lot of information. So if I add a content folder on this page, all it's going to do is open up a brand new content area. And I know I'm in a content area because I have that build content option. When you're ready to actually display some information, you're going to build an item. And again, there's a lot of really neat stuff in here. Don't be afraid to click on these things and see what they do. Or write a list of questions, and maybe I can come back later in the semester and just tell you all the stuff that you wanted to know. But for today, we're just going to look at creating an item. So the item, again, I can put anything in the text box I want. I can cut and paste. Yeah.
She had a question. I saw that you had the roster thing up there. I was just wondering if there's any record of past rosters, like if you change it, is there any record that got changed, or if you can save it?
There is no way to see what's been changed.
Okay.
So people are added and removed, and you can only see who's currently in there from that roster. We'll look at that button in just a second.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I actually forgot about it, so I'm glad you said something about it. I'm like, I keep looking at the clock. Again, there's just so much that you can do in here. So when you go to add the item, again, we have a pretty good idea of what we can include in that text editor. I can't think of anything you can't include, honestly. You can also just attach a file. I'd like you to consider your experience as a student in a Blackboard course. And hopefully you've been in a course, one that had just like a series of file attachments, PowerPoint, click on it, download, open, click on it, download, open. The alternative is to actually present the material in the text editor so that it's in the class. There's no extra clicking. How hard do you want to make it for members to get to your information? I strongly recommend whenever possible you put your content into the text editor. But if you need to share a file, maybe it's a flyer you want them to print or a form that they need to, there's certainly times that warrant a file attachment. So again, every time you create something, you're always going to be asked if it's going to be available to people. The only reason you wouldn't be is if you kind of develop it and you're not ready for people to see that. So the roster. So the roster will show me who's in here. I honestly don't know of a way to show everybody who's in the club from here. I don't understand the function of this tool, quite honestly. If you're a student leader and you have this control panel menu, You can see everybody that's in your club in the grade center, in the full grade center. And so, let's add a couple people. So I'm just gonna go through the process of a student who's interested in joining one of the clubs to show you how they're gonna show up on that list. So I'm a new student. I know that there's some student clubs out here. I can click on the student clubs. I can browse through. The one I'm looking in isn't in there. But if I click on the club, I picked up, for example, because I just went in as another student leader. So this is a student leader that's in here. Bear with me, my apologies. So here's a student who isn't part of any organizations. It's a brand new person. They're looking for membership. And I really wanted you to see what this process is, because as the student leaders, members should be able to come to you and say, how do I get into the club? So you have them log into Blackboard, click on the community resources. They can click on student clubs and go down through the list, or if they already know the name of your club, they can browse the catalog, put in a few search terms, and they can find your club that way. So this student hasn't enrolled, there's nothing to see. This is what someone who isn't involved in it anyway sees. But as soon as I hit enroll, now I have access to all the information as a club as a participant. So you see how I don't have this control panel menu anymore, all those drop-down arrows disappeared. This is the view that you get when you go on that student preview. So if you're designing, you're developing, you want to see how that's going to look to your membership, that student preview is going to show you what all of your club members are going to see. I apologize for the logging in and out here. Do you have any questions so far? Any more questions? So now that I have a couple people in there, as people add themselves to the membership, I'll see who I have in here. Another feature that I wanted to point out here that you might find useful is there is an email tool. You could add email as a side button. Hopefully you've seen that in your Blackboard courses. I always recommend faculty use the email from the Grade Center, and this is why. If you've ever used the email tool, you click on email, you get a list of individual users, everyone in the organization, just the instructor, selected users, and if you don't want to email everybody, you get this box that you have to drag everybody over to with arrows. I personally think that's extremely cumbersome. If you do it from the Grade Center, you have your entire membership visible to you. You can use the check boxes to selectively email, or you can select everybody and email the selected users. So instead of all that back and forth, it's just, this is who I want to send it to in one click. And one thing you get here that you don't get from the send email tool is you can blind copy. Every email that comes from Blackboard is sent through the MyFCC email. So all of the information that comes in here is from PeopleSoft. So whatever your email is in PeopleSoft is your email in Blackboard. Blackboard's not its own email system. So when you send email from Blackboard, it's going to go from an FCC email to an FCC email. But here is the only place in Blackboard where you can add another email address. So if you have people's personal email addresses, or if you wanted to include somebody who wasn't a part of the membership, if you wanted to include Jennifer or your club advisor, you could actually put additional recipients and do them a blind copy. FYI, every email that goes out of Blackboard, everybody is blind copied. You can't ever see who else gets an email. So if there's ever a sensitive topic you want to address with somebody, you don't have to worry about that they saw so-and-so also got that. So that's using email. I really think it's best to use it out of this grade center where you can also see your membership. Do you have any questions about that? So this being the first time I have done this for the student clubs, I'm assuming we want to know how to make the course look the way we want it. We want to know how to put initial information up in an announcement. We want to know how to add any relevant content associated with the menu. And we want to be able to view and message our membership. So. Do you have any questions about those things that we talked about? Okay. The only other one I'm going to talk about is the discussion board. If you didn't have a discussion board, you can add the discussion board as a tool link. Again, you can name this anything you want to. You just have to select the right tool. If you, just a note, because it just occurred to me, you might find the blogs or the journals useful for your membership to share information relevant to your club, because that gives individual participants an opportunity to contribute to the content without having actually the leadership control that you have. So please look at the blogs, look at the journals. They're just as simple to use as the discussion board. So the discussion board at first has no content at all, but again, you only have one option. You can create the form. If you haven't, is there anyone here who hasn't used a discussion board anywhere online? Okay, so we'll go through this real quick. So there's a few layers to the discussion. So the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to create the topic that people are going to respond to. You notice there were a lot of options for settings. That's something that you have to look at. It's very self-explanatory and they're very intuitive. And when you read what the option is, you're going to understand what I do. Can people edit posts? Check or uncheck. So I'm not going to go through the things that I think you're not going to struggle with. So for the discussion board, you got to create the topic. That's the one thing that you definitely have to do for your membership to be able to respond to. So you have the main discussion board. You have the topics that people can respond to. When they click on them, then they can actually create the thread. Creating the thread is the initial response to the topic, and then once I have created a thread, I can now reply, and then reply, and then reply, and then reply. So everybody knows how that works out. We have about 15. What was the timing on this? Anybody know? I thought that I amazingly got through everything that I definitely wanted to cover. Was there anything you wanted to know how to do that I haven't addressed in any way? Okay.
What about polls?
Polls?
Or uploading a calendar.
I'm trying to figure out, there's not a polls tool. I'm trying to think of like what would work in the same way you
I
could.
was thinking the discussion board, but I was wondering if there was like an actual polls type thing.
Gotcha. There's not a polls like in a chat room. No, it doesn't have that. You do have, and I'm sorry that I didn't point this out. Every one of these clubs, one of the tools that you have is called Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. That's your web conferencing. So if you wanted to do a virtual meeting, you just have to add the Collaborate tool, start a session, and this is available to all of you. And then the Collaborate tool actually has a poll system built into that. This is another, it takes like an hour to show how, but you're just gonna create a session, you're gonna pick your settings, you can decide when it starts, when it stops. There's always this course room up here that's always open, So if you do have a need to meet virtually, you always have that option with your student club space. And you do have, like I said, there's typical chat and conferencing tools such as polling.
There is a survey option though, that could work.
Yes, you have everything that you can do in a Blackboard course, you can do in the student clubs. So you can create a test, you can create a self-assessment, you can create a survey. I'll show you just I don't think, be able to go over all of the options for that. But if you are on a content area, you select up here, you can do your survey. I'm pretty confident most of you will, when you click on that and you see what your options are, it'll be pretty clear. You add your questions, you say when you want people to answer, and the only difference between a survey and a test or a quiz you would normally see is that it's anonymous, so you can't see who responded when.
Is this under content collection?
So we have talked about two things we can add to the menu. We talked about a content area and a tool link. The tool link is our announcements, our discussions, or that kind of thing. The content area is this page.
Oh, okay.
So the page that has these options. So if you are looking to do a survey, it's considered an assessment, and you would go in there to do it. That's a good question. I hadn't thought about using those. I feel like I said I was going to cover something and then absolutely blanked on it. So I really sorry. Those are really good questions though. So yeah, you do have a web conferencing, you do have a survey tool. What else do we have?
If you could upload like a calendar.
The calendar. That's one of your tools. So you could actually come up here to the tool link, choose the calendar. Because I forgot to hit available to users, if you ever have the box with the line through it, so the perforated box means there's no content, the box with the line through it means nobody can see it. So we can just show that. So the calendar is just here. So as the leader and the creator of the calendar, you can put your entries in. And and then all the membership can just click on calendar and see everything that you have put in the calendar. That's really good tool for this one. Yes.
Is there a way we can contact you, like about questions, if we have further questions about Blackboard or how to use it?
Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out how we want to do that. We hadn't, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and give you my contact information. When you can, I would prefer you go through Jennifer. If you know how, and if Jennifer can help me out showing this before she walks out, because
Sure.
I don't know the student side of this.
Oh, yeah.
The ticketing system, where students go to log a request. I get it on the end after it's
Yeah.
already been done.
So you can't do that, so you just have to come to me, and then I'll do it for you.
Which office are you in?
The Center for Student Engagement, right up the hall on H101. Yeah, I don't think they can,
I get it all the time from students.
or maybe it's on the portal. Has anybody done it through the portal? Have you had problems and done it through your student portal? Let me explore that. If there is a way, I'll email it to everybody, if that's okay.
It's the IT help desk. So if you have a computer problem, and it's the same thing, we use the
Okay.
same ticketing system as IT does.
Okay.
You just, when they say I'm a student.
Can I take a quick peek
Yeah,
up here?
please.
Let's look on the portal. Maybe this?
So, yeah, no, I would definitely respond to you. I can't always promise how quickly I will, which is why if we can filter it through Jennifer and we kind of get it through those official channels that I'm used to checking on a daily basis. I have to prioritize credit courses and issues that are happening with the Blackboard credit courses first. But if it's please don't. I'm here if you have any questions about Blackboard, so if you do want to take that information down, you need to contact me directly. Jennifer's not available, or you couldn't get to this page or whatever, I won't ignore you from here.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you want, it looks like if you go to the portal, so go to My FCC at the top of your, the main web page, and then go to IT Help Desk. It looks like there's an online request form here, and then up at the top, there is a specific one for Blackboard. So if you click that, it looks like you can fill that out. But again, with clubs, it is a little different, and we don't want to overwhelm them. So just come to me, let's see if we can troubleshoot it, or if every club's having the same question, then maybe we can submit that and do an extra workshop or something like that. So, yeah.
Moving forward, I'm actually currently redoing the Blackboard student tutorial, which is also on that Blackboard communities page. And I'm gonna have student club leader information as a separate section in there. So it will be there for you, but probably not until like the end of November. But for spring, you'll be golden. So everything that we talked about, you'll have virtually also. And unless there's any more questions.
So was this helpful?